It is without further of a doubt that Helldivers 2 has taken the world by storm with how popular the game has become within a month. And in the month, we've already had meta builds, we've had, metas to take care of particular units, and a lot has changed since its release date. What is different when it comes to the difficulty levels in Helldivers 2? This is a question that I asked myself because I feel like I skipped a lot of levels. I started with 3 or 4, and then when I got up to 6, I think I skipped all the way to 9. I don't even think, even though you meant to do the previous level before doing that, I don't know what happened. I don't remember doing either 7, 8 at all, but yeah. But I never actually did the first 2 difficulties, and I was just curious as to what is the difference. Now, it is to be noted that these recordings were done before the most recent patch that changed how spawns worked in the higher levels, and how charges and biotitans can basically react. Charges, for what I've read, are a lot easier to deal with now than what they were before. So you won't see that in this video, which is why we're struggling hard to. That being said, let us digress. I'm gonna open my mother and I had a cringy lineup joke for fucking spam call. Genuine disappointment. Let's dive into this, shall we? Now, when you're loading up and getting into the game, the first thing you'll notice is that the map is incredibly small. The extraction and the mission area are almost right next to each other, and it is a very small map. Noting that the only samples that you can collect are the common samples. You cannot gain any of the rares or any of the super samples in these lower levels. So when you do finally get in, you will notice very quickly that there is not a lot of enemies. There is almost virtually no enemies on the map. It is very, very, very easy to combat all those enemies as well. And bug breaches don't even really do much of a difference. They add a few extra bugs, but they're not going to overwhelm you. And the noticeable asset missing from this level is hunters. Hunters are the pinnacle of death at this point. They are so fucking annoying, it is unbelievable. The best way to describe a hunter as if they were a clingy girlfriend. They will jump on you, they will latch onto you and will not let you go until you accept your fate. Now, I don't know if they spit acid as well, the girlfriends. I have to relay that to the divers that have girlfriends. Now, with all that being said, this really isn't an uneventful match. I was able to finish this mission within 7 to 8 minutes. That's obviously doing the main objective and then extracting, not really looking for any other resources or samples or anything like that. And obviously you can do that. I didn't, for the sake of just seeing how, like, what the different atmospheres would be for, like, mostly just enemies. So with difficulty 2, we're going to start off with it being a little bit different in terms of the size of the map. The size of the map is slightly bigger, and the points between the extraction and the main objective are also a bit further apart. And once again, you're only able to collect common samples. Once you have landed into the world, you will notice one thing that is different, and that is there are nests now scattered around the map. These are bug nests that you need to take out to perform maximum democracy. And these are relatively always small ones, but I believe some of them are medium sized. Now, another thing that has been added to this difficulty is optional objectives. These optional objectives are essentially side quests, if you will. They can include radar stations, or even destroying illegal broadcasting stations. This was particularly the illegal broadcast station really was the main mission for this, but it's more or less a side mission. As you saw earlier, I was trying to find out if there were any by just spam clicking the map, because if you find something on the map, it will just mark it for you, which is kind of counterintuitive if you're wanting to hide something, but you know, there's that. But my dumbass actually ended up missing it, and I actually didn't get the optional objective for this one. So good job, me. Now here's something that I didn't expect to happen. I encountered hunters on this level. There were only 3 of them, and they were the only hunters that I saw throughout this entire mission. But I was not expecting hunters to appear on the level 2 difficulty. So, yeah, they're a thing. Now, another small little change is when I called in the instruction for this one, I did actually have a bit of bugs to deal with, and I did have to kind of move a bit more than the previous level, just to not get swarmed by them. I didn't add any footage of the first one for the extraction because it was essentially just waiting around nothing. There was almost nothing to do. But with this one, there was a little bit of fighting, a little bit of defending from all the bugs. And then with difficulty number 2 done, again another pretty uneventful difficulty, a little bit harder than the previous one, but nothing too major. And with difficulty level 3, which is medium, the map again has expanded a bit. There was a lot more map to deal with, and with this particular mission there are 2 objectives, 2 main objectives before the extraction, and a visible optional objective. And with this mission there was actually 2 optional objectives. Obviously one is visible and one isn't, so you'll need to find the second one in order to complete both of the optional objectives. Now when it comes to optional objectives, personally I think the artillery optional objective is the best one, as it is an actual stratagem that you can use to fight against the bugs. Now I must have just gotten really lucky at the beginning of this match, because for at least a good 3.5 minutes I had 0 bug interaction up until this fight. This is my first bug interaction that I've had, and once again I have been completely railed and munted by a fucking hunter. Have I told you how much I hate hunters? That being said, we are introduced to a lot more enemies as the previous level, and we have these green spitters, which I honestly was quite surprised to see on difficulty 3. Because if you stand still and take all of their nice juicy green acid, you will instantly die. So I don't recommend that. And it took me this long to get into my mech to actually fight these off, because yes, I had a mech this entire time. I didn't use it until there were only 2 enemies left, so I'm smart. Now in this particular level we are introduced to the Charger. Now obviously because I'm in a mech, he was obviously very easy to take care of, but I do not believe he is a spawn, as I hadn't actually seen a Charger spawn in outside of being a boss to eliminate, which is what this mission was. Now with this difficulty you will encounter more enemies and more frequent patrols, and especially when you're on the extraction point you will get a lot more of enemies to deal with while waiting for your shuttle. And yes, I did get munted by hunters once again. It was very, very annoying. I fucking hate hunters. But with that done, there really isn't too much of a difference. There is a difficulty spike, but it's gradually increasing, but it's not anything that any true Helldiver cannot deal with. Ignore my deaths. Difficulty level 4, challenging. Now this is the first difficulty that will allow us to collect common samples and rare samples. Once again, the map is also a bit bigger and the points are a bit separated away, but now we have what they're called secondary objectives. but must be completed before the primary. So, for an instance, this is, I believe, a search the find the launch codes before we can actually do the main mission. So with this difficulty you get 3 optional objectives to complete, and one of them could be a spore spewer. These basically cover a pretty decent chunk of the map with what could only really be described as like fog, like smog. It reduces your visibility immensely, and it's really easy to kill, but when you do, you will start seeing a lot more of the world. Now obviously with the difficulty going up, you will encounter more and more enemies, and more stronger enemies, like the Brood Commander here. The Brood Commander can be a boss to defeat in the levels below 3. I don't think 2 has one, but you can find them as boss objectives. However, they are just random spawns added to the pile, along with these guys as well that have a very, it's like a forward armor plate, and they're really easy to kill when they don't move either. Another addition to the mob count, but it is technically an optional objectives, are stalkers. Stalkers are camo, if you will. They camouflage, so they're really easy to see, but if they get in close with you and you don't kill them straight away, they will deal damage, because they have like knockback 18 on their tentacles. It's insane. Also, I don't know what was up with this particular stalker, but he tried to be really sneaky, so enjoy this. It's around here where we get introduced to our first charger coming out of the wild, and he does eventually get stuck, so that's quite unfortunate. And with level 4, there was a lot more to do, and there was a lot more to worry about. More bugs, more enemies, more objectives, and a lot more samples to worry about. Oh, and I almost forgot, there is a slight chance, only on this particular mission, because fuck you, that you get stuck onto the onto the ship and then die from bio spew. Yeah, I was not happy about that at all. Difficulty level 5. Now the map hasn't changed since the previous one, and that is actually the full map version. For what it seems like, we get the same map from the same size map from the previous level. However, there are more enemies and nests to deal with. Now with difficulty 5, there is not much that changes in the way of objectives, so to speak. You still get 3 optional objectives, and you still get 1 main objective. The difference is that the objectives are different. There's some that only appear on the higher difficulties, and the mobs and the bugs, they spawn a lot more. Luckily, I actually had 2 trees that were right next to each other, so that ticked off the 2 unmarked objectives really quickly. Now with the changes in mind, biggest change is definitely the harder bugs, so i.e. charges, maybe a few more Brood Commanders, and a bunch of the harder ones to deal with, as noted here. I don't know why this particular charger just like took an armada of rockets before he died, but there is more. They're going to be more than 1 charges. Going to be more enemies, more hunters, probably more Brood Commanders as well, and there is just more or less a lot more of the higher tier bugs to deal with. This is just a PSA that I have the worst luck sometimes. I encountered hunters while in a very slow water pond thing, and of course I ended up getting my demise. Now, I don't know if this next bit says a lot about the level difficulty or just me in general, but it legitimately took me almost close to is a fuckload of more enemies as shown here. There are so many more enemies to deal with, and this was very painful to get the extraction going. It was like almost 5 minutes, but it felt way longer. Difficulty level 6. Again, there's not much changing in terms of the map size and the samples. Obviously there's going to be more enemies and the addition of another optional objective. So there'll be 4 optional objectives, 1 that's currently visible and 3 that are hidden that you need to take care of to deliver maximum democracy. Now, I kind of fumbled a little bit on the landing zone for the beginning of this mission, but I am already being attacked by stalkers as there is a nest nearby. Level 6 does not fuck around. If there are enemies nearby, they will definitely come for you. And it's shown in these clips where I'm already getting swarmed by hunters and I've already died within the first minute of the game. Now again, with a lot like of the other difficulties prior to this, a lot of the difficulty scale has been just more enemies, and that is definitely evident in the hunter category, because there was a shit ton more hunters that you have to deal with, along with other of the elite versions of bugs. You've got chargers, brood commanders, just a higher chance of spawning them. Among this difficulty as well comes the chance for a new enemy to spawn, and that enemy is your teammates, because they can occasionally kill you. With level 6, of course, there's going to be more and more enemies, and there is also a chance for the level to spawn in a Bile Titan. Bile Titan are the big spider-like crab bosses, and they are the biggest boss on the bugs. They are also not that hard to deal with in some cases. Difficulty level 7. Now we're playing with the big boys. Difficulty level 7 is the first level of which you can collect all samples. You've got common, rare, and now super samples. There is a specific rock that you need to find in order to find the super samples, and they only spawn there. In addition to it being much more a harder difficulty and the samples, there's also a higher chance of planetary effects. In this case, we got spore spewers, which basically cover the entire map, and more or less that just means that we don't know where we're really dropping. We know where the objectives are, the one visible secondary objective, but we don't know where we're going to be landing, whether it'll be in open or rocky land, basically. Now, just when you think more enemies couldn't get any worse, our beautiful bug spewers with the acid have a new ability, and that is artillery. They can shoot out green artillery that doesn't apply the exact same effect as the spitting, but it will kill you if you do not move anytime soon. They are very annoying and they do hurt a lot. I don't know how I died here. I think there's a bug going on with the mechs where occasionally there's a rocket that spawns inside of the mech, so I instantly get detonated. So just another PSA: if you are swarmed by a lot of heavy if you are swarmed by a lot of heavy enemies, or just a lot in general, these are hell bombs. These are damaged hell bombs. So you can just shoot them and they will explode. They are very effective at taking care of large groups of bugs and heavy enemies, and they're quite effective as shown here. Now, it should be mentioned that there was a shit ton of enemies that we had to deal with during this extraction. One of them included a charger and a biotitan. And unfortunately, me and my mate who joined me to this, we ended up dying. So it's quite unfortunate, but there is difficulty is definitely up there now. Difficulty level 8. We are slowly going towards Helldive. And another thing that I forgot to mention since level 6 is that some of these missions, if not all of them, will have 2 secondary objectives to complete. So we've got these 2 here that need to be completed before we do the big main mission over on the left there. And that does involve level 6s, 7s and onwards. Something I did forget to mention there, but level 8, no other special uniques added into that besides the additional secondary objectives, just a lot more enemies. Now, if you want to know what an opening of level 8 and above looks like, or even level 7, just watch this. Yes, I did walk in front of that and killed myself. Now we have a new enemy that has joined the thread. We actually haven't seen all video. These are a yellow version of the green spitters. They're more or less the same, but they work slightly differently. So they don't have the artillery option that they have, that the greens do. They also they spawn their own little smog around them. So it does make it difficult to see when you get closer to them, but their spit still hurts and does damage, so it's still best to not stand it in front of their mouth. They're not based off of level. We just got really unlucky and not had them until now. They can spawn on any other levels that the green spitters can spawn. They're basically interchanges between what variant spawns. Yeah, once again, difficulty got harder, and so did all the enemies, having a higher chance of spawning more of them, especially when it comes to the elite bugs like the Biotitan Charger and a few of the Brood Commanders. There is just a lot of those spitters as well. Just a lot of bugs in general, and that's typically how all these difficulties go. And yes, we did die again before we could extract. And difficulty 9, Helldive. You've watched through this whole video, maybe. Have learned how the difficulty scale, and what have you learned for this? But what you should have learned is that you are fucked. Helldive is gloves off, no holding back. Your life is forfeit, essentially. And it is just going to be an absolute chaos, at least when it comes to 2 people. It's probably more doable with 4 people rather than 2, but in saying that, I didn't have anyone else, so fuck off. But the noticeable change in this is that we're doing the rocket mission again, and the noticeable change is that there are 3 secondary objectives that we need to complete before we can actually do the main mission. And that's another addition. We have more objectives to do to complete the main mission, which makes it a lot harder when there are more elites and more bugs spawning in. And with that being said, there's really nothing much to add for this difficulty. It's just a lot of chaos, and I'm going to provide a couple of clips right now just to show how chaotic Helldive can get.
East, 100 meters. Tagging map, west, 300 meters. Strike. I'm out. Rare sample. Throwing supply beacon. I'm out. Calling in orbital strike. Calling in reinforcement. I'm out.
Request approved. Deploying reinforcements.
Democracy has landed. Have a taste of democracy. Sending in an eagle.
Democracy's on
I'm
its
out.
way. ETA T-minus 3 minutes.
West, close.
ETA T-minus 2 minutes.
If they could speak, I know our heroes would not have us mourn their loss, but rejoice.
And that is that. Yes, we were unable to successfully extract from levels 6, 8, and 9, unfortunately, but that was it. That is all the levels for the bugs. I am thinking about possibly doing the bots, but I find the bots far worse than the bugs. Some people say that they're easier than the bugs. I don't see it personally, but if you would like me to, if you'd like to see me do that, be sure to let me know in the comments and leave a like. I'm probably going to do it anyway, so there's that. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little adventure, and I will see you in the next video of mine. Take care, ciao. Bye.